Man, I'm so honored to have you guys as sponsors on the podcast and to be working with you guys in that capacity. Man, I'm loving the coffee too.
Good. No, it was a lot of fun, man. When we developed this out and with the brand and what it represents and our customer base, and there was no better partner for us than Eastmans. Eastmans embodies all the same things we do. You and the rest of the Eastmans crew we're all cut from the same cloth. And for us, that's really important as a brand, as a company, to be with people that have the exact same values. For us, this company goes way deeper than just a simple, hey, let's find the right guys and find the right audience. It's really connecting with people and working with people that don't just have the same interests and the same perspectives, but really those values too, because that's extremely important to us as a company.
Hmm. I love that you guys put your dollars behind the things that you believe in, and it's really nice to meet you in person, Jarrod. Man, you're a young guy that loves to hunt and loves the outdoors, and I can see why Brandon talks so highly about you. The
Oh,
way
that's
you
good.
carry yourself, and yeah, and you're
Good. I
definitely a tech
appreciate that.
wizard by this morning. We figured that out. We're both on here
Yeah,
on the video
yeah.
recording.
It, there's a lot of things that I'm pretty decent at, and technology is not one of them. So I was kind of born and raised in the middle of nowhere, and I haven't got with the time. So I appreciate you bearing with me this morning while we figured it out. No, but
No worries. If it's not you, it's me for sure. Yeah, no, we got it worked out. We're on here anyways. And Charles, it's really nice to meet you too. So, what's your role at Juniper Mountain?
So basically, I'm the head roaster and also the importer. So when it comes to the coffee side of things, right, as far as the manufacturing, the importation, the processing, roasting, that's kind of again my role. So I kind of fill that role on the backside as far as getting all the products developed out, right? So the profiling of the coffees, importation of the coffees, just again overall that in general, just the equipment that we're using. So that's kind of where we fall in line. And as far as getting connected with Jarrod and Philip, it was like it's kind of an organic thing. Like we were talking about it last night. It's funny because I mean we're talking about complete opposite sides of the U.S. here, right? So I'm a Southeast boy from Florida, born and raised, then Oregon, right? So I don't know much about the West. Jarrod and them again don't know much about the East, but we come together and it's come from the same cloth. I mean we're the same folks,
yeah,
right? And so it's kind of it's funny, man. It's like it could have went two different directions here, but really it's like we're the same. I mean, we get along just, I mean, fantastically. We are the same. We're the same folks, and that's
yeah,
kind of what Juniper Mountain kind of encompasses, man. Is the fact that no matter where you're coming from, if you have the same, you know, you know, we don't compromise to. That's our slogan, right? It's like the coffee without compromise. We don't really, have those kinds of things that are quote unquote would be similarities, but really we're all the same folks, man. We're
yeah.
hardworking blue collar guys, and come together and we're running the company out together. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really why, of course, a lot of our aesthetic and imagery on the brand side is hunting focused. But make no mistake, our brand reaches much further than just hunters alone. Why we like hunting so much is because, in my opinion, it's probably the best representation of life itself. What I mean by that is this: when you're out on a hunt, and every hunter knows this story, there's a lot of decisions to make, and a lot of times you don't know what the best one is. So you sit there, you weigh your options, and you make a calculated decision to go, I think this is my best choice, not knowing exactly what that outcome is going to be. Sometimes it works out great, sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, all you have to do is pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, get back out there and keep that forward momentum, which is how life works. And for us, that's really who we're selling to, is people that have perseverance, determination, grit. And we like to kind of conceptualize that through hunting and through the hunting imagery we have, but people with grit, blue collar workers, um, it's really all under our veil here.
Man, 100%. Yeah. Man, it's like wild the similarities we can have growing up across the nation or across the world. And when you meet somebody, with those qualities and you line up, it's almost like you're long lost brothers. Like you just get
Yeah.
along, like Charles said, like cut from the same cloth. Like you just get along so well when those align. And not to mention the company and your guys' direction and what you guys support with your dollars, but also the importance in the coffee itself. Like the premium coffee is absolutely top of the heap. Like I haven't, like you guys put so much effort in putting out a quality product in the best roasts out there. Like I notice both with the medium roast and the dark roast, like there's no bitter taste. Like the beans themselves are such high level. Like talk about that a bit, like what you guys put into getting the absolute best roast.
No, for sure. So, I mean, really, that all kind of, when it comes to really coffee itself, right? So for us, it all starts with origin, right? So with me, I've been in the coffee industry for a decade now, about 10 years, and I've had a couple of retail shops. I've been roasting coffee for, again, on the just north of 10 years. And so when it comes to really cranking out the best quality product, it all starts at the farm level, which again is kind of something that's kind of unique too on that front. If we want to kind of dive into the farm thing, it's, again, we're talking about families and generational farmers that are doing this for years, for, again, 100+ years over in other countries. Again, kind of going back to the origin of Juniper Mountain itself. I mean, even just the connection that we have with those farmers, and even the connection that Jarrod and his family. I mean, he grown up ranching and farming, right?
Yep.
And again, that translates to the relationships there at the farm level. So when you start sourcing coffees, we found a few different origins that we really liked and wanted to kind of really just build those and cultivate those relationships overseas. In Panama being one of the again, in my opinion, kind of the hierarchy there, right? When you start talking specialty grade coffee, good elevation, good soils, kind of the microclimates that are in that region of Panama. And so really, as far as cultivating those profiles and those coffees, for me, top of the list was like, we got to go source some coffee from Panama, which we did. And then while doing that, we're able to again kind of go over there and meet these folks. And so we're kind of able to handpick some of those farmers and really, again, go directly to the farmers. So that's one unique thing about us as well, is that being a coffee company, going and actually being able to source directly from those folks, right? And so we have we work with 100+ farmers, and we know them all on a personal level. So we've made dozens of trips overseas, and again, meeting these folks and again sharing dinner and coffee together with them as well. So again, it's more than just the finished cup of coffee we're drinking in the morning. For us, it's literally from the farm level to then bringing it here in house, right? Importing and then the roasting profile. And so our whole goal is to again, every step of the process to really look and see how we can maximize and make that coffee the best it can be for the customer. And it all starts there at the ground level, which is going to be where you're sourcing the coffee from.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's kind of
no, that's it, man. It's you guys have put so much effort into it, and it comes out in that flavor profile, the coffee. And a couple things. So you guys have ruined me on all other coffee roasts now that I know what really good coffee tastes like. And also, you guys have fueled me for this hunting season, and definitely sharing some of the success of like the animals that I've harvested. Is it's like my routine in the morning to get up and have a cup of coffee and that caffeine that fuels me in the morning. So definitely have helped me harvest a good bull and good buck and some other critters this year. But yeah, man, I'm absolutely loving the coffee. And then I just love that support sportsmen, and you have an elk on the logo, which is about the coolest logo I could ever think of, and us hunters, we're a small group of guys, and so to have a coffee company use that as their main logo is amazing. And Jarrod, you're just getting back, like you harvested a good 6-point this year. You've been hunting hard as well, and with your bow, man, that is no easy feat, man. Congratulations.
No, appreciate it. So I do almost all archery hunting, and it's mostly elk and mule deer. I've got one whitetail, but again, almost all out west. So I haven't got over this way too much, but yeah, I actually went to, it's kind of funny. The name Juniper Mountain actually is a reference to where we like to hunt in East Oregon. So East Oregon, when you think East Oregon, you don't think big bulls, right? It's kind of one of those states. It's like nobody's really going, with the exception of shooting Roosevelt's on the west side, but we got Rocky Mountain elk on the east side, and you're not going to see those 400+ inch bulls that you're going to see in New Mexico and in Nevada, but you're going to get some nice bulls. So the Juniper Mountain, there is a place in Eastern Oregon called Juniper Mountain. That's not what we're referring to. What we're referring to is our own kind of private area that we like to hunt. And I always make a joke that it's a real original name. It was a mountain with a bunch of juniper on it. But again, tying that brand into something and representing who we are through it was important to us, because the foundation of our company is, of course, great coffee. But when it comes to the branding, the marketing, all that kind of stuff, we don't believe in trying to overcomplicate it. We just want to be able to look in the mirror and sell to ourselves, essentially. And that's really what we're doing here. And to circle back real quick to what Charles was saying, our slogan is coffee without compromise. And that expression is a little bit deeper than it seems. At the face value, it's pretty straightforward. We don't compromise our quality. So like he was saying, it starts at the origin with the producers, the farmers, the type of coffee they're growing and where they're growing it. And then that process, the harvesting process. But from there, you have to ensure that every single thing that happens beyond that is perfect. Otherwise, you'll degrade that coffee and you can wreck it. So the way you roast it, the way you store it, the way you grind it, the way you bag it, all of that is extremely important to retain that quality all the way through that entire process. So that's the first step of that slogan, coffee without compromise, is doing everything optimally. But beyond that, it's the values that our company represents. We don't believe that anybody, for any reason, should ever compromise their values. And we certainly won't. When we were starting this, we got a lot of recommendations from people that had a lot of experience building large companies and doing these things. And all of them said, well, don't do that, right? That's pretty niche, and that's going to be a turnoff to some people. And maybe you should make it a little bit more mild, a little bit more neutral. And we said, no, we're not going to do that, because it's not who we are. We're kind of a hard line as far as the way we do things in this country, man. For decades now, people have been outsourcing everything they can, nickel and diming to save money. And we get it. People want to make money. But for us, when we built this facility out that we're sitting in right now, we bought everything American made that we could. And we went, the ends to which we went to ensure that went deep. Even our bags are sourced domestically, our coffee bags. Nobody does that, because it's like 4 times more expensive than sourcing from overseas, but it's just not who we are, and we're not going to do it. And that really ties into, as a company, we believe, and this was extremely important to us from the very beginning, to make sure that we could have a completely open door policy. So we're willing to show everybody from how we source to how we transport and import as being an importer, to the storage, to the roasting process. We want people to see all of it, because we're extremely proud of every single thing we've done.
Man, you guys should be. What a great slogan, and what great words to live by as well. It's to spend more to get a product that you're proud of, that you can stand behind. It's the same thing with me, building houses. It's like I tell those owners, like, there's cheaper guys out there for sure. But what you can guarantee about us is that, all our carpenters that are working on your project are top-notch craftsmen. There's a line where we won't cut corners. We won't build a cheap house. Like, there's the things that have to be done right in our area. Like, we live in Montana, where we get cold winters. Like, your insulating package has to be sound. We also live with a lot of wind. So, we're not going to cut corners as far as like our spray foam insulation to make sure that we get no wind penetrations in the house. We're not going to cut corners and put on a cheaper siding that isn't going to hold up or last the test of time. And I think, like, when you live by those standards and build a company by those standards, it's like, yeah, you could cut a corner here or there with your bags, like you're spending 4 times more, but you're buying bags that you can be proud of, that are American made. And so you're like, you're building a better company in the end. It just takes longer to get to the end goal, but you're building one where your product you're so proud of every step of the way, from your building to your coffee to your roasters. And so it costs more, but there's just something about like coffee without compromise, like building a company that way, that I think is so important. And I think it comes out like in the flavor of the coffee as well, like in the roast of the coffee and the product that you're putting out, that it's not a money grab, that you're building a company that can stand the test of time. I just think that's beautiful, Jarrod, the way you explain that, and the way you built this company, man. It's awesome, and I can see why you guys are doing so well.
Charles was kind of holding out on you, by the way. So Charles, we're co-founders. So from the inception of the company, Charles was there as well. So he's not just head roaster, he's owner and co-founder as well. but no, man, I mean, that's exactly it. Build something you can be proud of. And these are the types of things that are so frustrating dealing with business, with production, manufacturing in the States today, is so many companies will talk a big talk and they have a lot of nice things to say, but ultimately the second they can do something and outsource it, send it overseas, do whatever they can to cut costs, they're going to do just that. Where for us, it was a non-starter. You know, there was no, again, that coffee without compromise runs deep to where there's nothing that we do here to cut corners at any point, you know.
It's a way of
even like
life too, isn't it?
it is, yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. You know, and we always say it's like we're not doing this to make a bunch of money. Hopefully, obviously, everybody wants to have a livable wage, you know, but really our entire goal, to kind of speak to the kind words you had for the actual coffee itself, is in you know, our industry. When you look at our exact market, you can kind of compare us to potentially some other brands that exist that are similar to similar customer bases. But as far as the actual contents, if you remove all the branding, all that kind of stuff, and you're looking at just the coffee inside that bag, well, our competition, it's a pretty high-end market. So our goal from day one is, hey, let's take that coffee that generally is going to be like the mid $20 bag price point, that's completely inaccessible to average day people, and do everything we can. And it was, I mean, we had our work cut out for us, you know, but be able to bring that down without cutting corners to a price point that everybody can afford. You know, you're working a job, people's money spending, the way that we see people spending money with us, we take it extremely seriously, you know, especially today when every dollar counts. So, you know, when somebody's willing to look to us and think about spending their money with us, we take it extremely seriously. So we do everything we can, again, to just optimize that coffee from start to finish.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it is a way of life. It's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. Like I always think I have like such a good connection with my audience because I am my audience. I'm such a fan of Western hunting. And
Yeah,
the same way with you guys, like you
yeah,
guys are blue collared, hardworking outdoor guys. Like you are your customer base. Like
yeah,
you're the
yeah,
people that you're trying to reach, you know, and that's what I love is the authenticity of talking to you guys. Like I just think you can know your client base, and like us outdoorsmen, us blue collars, like we also like to spend our money in companies that we want to support, in causes that we want to support. So you can see why yeah, I mean to get me to open up my wallet, it's like to support a really good company that is putting their dollars back behind what they believe in, that's putting their dollars into bringing the most premium product they can to market, to do the absolute best job they can. Like that makes me feel good. And I can spend a few more bucks on a company that I really like versus a company I don't, that maybe has some good advertising or pretends like they support the outdoors or the hunting
right,
community.
yeah,
I'd rather support a company with an elk on their logo.
yeah. No, man, I mean, you can't see it, but like that elk right there, it's a nice, I mean, it's a good bull, real heavy. And I shot him in 2020 archery on Juniper Mountain, you know, and then this buck came from, it's a big muley. You can't see, it's just out a picture there, but that came from the same area. But really, one of the things that we love about doing what we're doing right now is the more people you talk to, the more you realize that we're all the same. Like talking to you, you have the exact same mindset, the exact same mentality with everything you're doing. So like you said, with building, you know, that's one of those things where, yeah, man, there's going to be a lot of guys out there cutting corners, doing things as cheaply as possible. And then they're delivering that customer a product that customer probably won't be the wiser to, but you would be, right, as a builder. And so it's one of those things where it's like, you, because you're a man of integrity, you're going to do the right thing. You're going to do good by the people that you're building for. And we're the same way, and our customers are the same way. You know, like Charles said, I'm from the West, born and raised. He's from the East, born and raised. The minute we got together, it's like, even though we have different experiences at a small level, we're the same person, you know?
Yeah. Which is pretty neat too, because like even again, that's here in the U.S., but I mean that translates internationally. I mean the same thing, kind of like what I was trying to go into earlier, is even at origin when you're doing the sourcing of this coffee, it's like you're talking with blue collar, you know, farmers and producers, and it's like it's the same folks,
Yeah.
right? So it's pretty neat to see that translate not just here in the U.S. but also internationally with our our partners, our direct trade partners overseas as well, that are actually, again, harvesting the coffee for us.
Yeah.
So
No,
Yeah.
and like Charles said, kind of with, I grew up farming, ranching. That's my background primarily. So when you start talking to these people, even though you're talking like we grew mostly alfalfa and winter wheat, but even though you're talking two different products, I don't know anything about actually growing coffee, on the technical side, but it doesn't matter. You're still speaking the exact same language. You're doing the same thing for the same reasons, so there's that weird, it's like this lifestyle, this way of life, and that kind of who you are as a person sometimes goes so beyond even language barriers,
No,
so
it's neat to see. It's neat to see. I mean, again, it's like we feel like we all see like this, this division within our country and within this world. But it's like, man, when you start really talking with folks, like we're not all that much different. It's like we have a lot of similarities. We're all, again, it's like if you have values and morals and you stand for something, it's like we're all the same folks, right? And so it's cool to see that, man. It really is.
yeah. No, spot on.
Yeah, you're so right, Charles. Like I've met like a lot of great people through hunting, and so I've made these friends through Australia, and they've come out with me to hunt elk a couple times, and then I've been out to Australia to hunt with those guys. I've met their friends, and then also I went up to Canada this year and hunted with a buddy up in Canada, and even though we've grown up on opposite sides of the world, there's like different political spectrums, like you get over there and you meet these guys and we're so similar. Like we just have the same way we go about life. And there's some of my best friends, like greatest guys I've ever met that, have grown up on different sides of the country. So I totally understand where you're coming from, Charles, like your connection with your farmers, where you're sourcing your beans from, like having this connection with those guys that work hard, and these similarities. Like, man, it just, I think you're so spot on with that. And I love too that you guys are supporting those farmers with your dollars, as well as you're going with the guys that have these same ways they go about ranching their lands or coming up with their coffee. Like you're supporting those guys that have these similar mindsets as you guys. And so through doing that, it's like it's so, there's so many similarities between you guys, and now that your dollars are supporting these farmers, and you're not just going through a wholesaler that then you don't know where those dollars are going. Like you're actually supporting the farmers and ranchers that are out there working their land, that have this quality product, that also aren't cutting corners exactly how you guys live your life.
No, and that's, it was really important to us too, to not only was by doing this, was it able to get us our costs down so we could transfer that value to our customers, but more importantly than that, it let us ensure that the farmers themselves who we're working directly with are treated right. So a lot of people don't know this, but in the coffee industry, generally on the importation side, it can be pretty dirty as far as the treatment of the farmers. A lot of these people will kind of have these cooperatives and brokers and things involved that don't always do good by them. And that's kind of generally how it goes, unfortunately. So by being able to cut out anybody that would be distributing them money, and kind of working as a middleman, we're able to also make sure that they're getting treated the way they should, getting paid the way they should. I mean, one of the first things we did actually when we started partnering with these producers is the equipment they were using, and a lot of what they're doing is hand harvesting, because we're in these really high elevation areas where you can't get equipment in there. One of the first things we realized was their equipment was really bad. So we bought them all new equipment so that everybody could at least have tools that worked, and that's kind of what, after we did that kind of really kicked off this relationship with them. But again, for us, it's like, man, we would rather spend the extra money and get guys what they need, so they're not sitting there with tools that don't work. It just isn't right, is what it is. Ultimately, it just isn't right. So for us, doing that, having that relationship also lets us be able to make sure that people are treated the way they should.
No, it's transparency throughout the whole process, right? Again, it's like if you really looking at the whole Juniper Mountain as a company, it's like at any point in time, somebody can ask us about any part of our process, right? It's like it's thoughtful, right? All the way from the farmers, the whole process from farm to bag. It's like we have an answer for that. It's like that's really important for us, right? So it's, again, with our company being built this way, having like that slogan again as far as no compromise. Well, any question you throw at us, we'll have an answer for, because we know the whole process. There is no gray area there. It's like we know where the coffee is being sourced. We know where all of our other our materials are being sourced. Like we have those answers. And so again, it just goes back and ties into the whole Juniper Mountain, slogan is again we have that transparency. So from start to finish.
Mhm. It's a lot tougher way to do things. It'd be way easier to do a money grab or build some business. But when you like the way you guys do things, when you put your name behind it and when you're building a company that you can be proud of, it's really the only way to do it is the right way. But it's definitely the more difficult way, and it takes longer. And like you say, it once you can get the word out about the company that you've built and the product that you're so proud of, like guys will jump to be able to support it. I truly believe that, man. It's absolutely spot on. And I love the Juniper Mountain as well. Like, man, that the Eastern Oregon, like I know Oregon can get a bit of a bad reputation by some of the stuff on the west side, but that Eastern Oregon is all farmers and ranchers, and that the Eastern Oregon too is such beautiful country. Like, man, and they do grow big bulls and they do grow big bucks. Like I've hunted the Wahis, like on the Idaho side, like right on the border of Oregon. And then I've always wanted to hunt oh gosh, there's a unit in there I've always wanted to hunt that's on that east side that's really good for bucks. But, it's actually kind of a gem or a hidden secret there for mule deer. You guys will grow some big muleys and some big bulls over there. And there's just nothing better than the smell of sage and like that kind of that high desert country. I really like that country for sure.
Same. No, I was going to say, man, we could sit here and talk about coffee all day long because it's what we do, but let's talk hunting for a while. That's like you said, with as far as big bucks goes, there's actually, so I went to Oregon to hunt this year, and I had archery, mule deer, and elk. I got a decent bull, but there was a 200, at least 200 inch. He was definitely north. I'd guess him 210, 215, just a absolute trophy muley, but I just couldn't make a play on him. He was you know how it is in that high desert where it's arid and you don't have a lot of cover in some of these areas. So he was up in some rims and making a play even from high ground. It just, that I tried multiple times, and you're trying to kind of, play that, walk that line as far as making a play and being aggressive enough to get in there and make a stalk, but at the same time not blow them out of the country altogether. And I just couldn't quite, the stars didn't quite align, and I didn't get it done, but I did get a good bull.
Yeah, he did get a good bull, man. They just don't come easy, whether it's a 6-point bull with your bow or a mule deer, like all that stuff with a bow and arrow is like the ultimate challenge. And especially like an old muley buck like that, like over 200 inches, like, could be 7 or 8 years old in that country. And their instincts are so keen. And so you're right. You try to use the topography and the sage and the rim rocks and try to plan your approach and get the wind right. But the deal is like they've evolved thousands of years from avoiding mountain lions. And no matter how sneaky we get, it's like we're never going to be as stealthy as a mountain lion that has to jump on their back and kill them with tooth and claws. And that buck has evolved from all those years of avoiding, mountain lions like that. So, man, they are so difficult. They'll just break your heart, won't they, Jarrod?
Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
Yeah.
Especially that time of year. And so I went down, I didn't have a lot of time to hunt this year. I only had a few good days, but I like, especially if elk's always my focus. I love elk hunting more than anything else. So when I went out this year, my favorite time to show up is right kind of mid-September, like 13th, 14th, somewhere in there, kind of right, every place is a little bit different, but at least where we are, generally it's kind of right at the end of pre-rut. And the elk are just starting to move. The bulls are starting to pick their cows up, and they're just starting to communicate a little bit. And for me this year, and I'm hearing the story a lot, it was really, really hot where we were, like way hotter than normal, and it was pretty quiet, and the elk were there, because that's what you hear all the time is, of course, because everybody always says, well, the elk aren't talking, and you'll hear guys go, well, that's because they're not there, but they were there. There was sign all over the place, but the bulls were just all quiet. So again, I was there 13th. And only had a couple days to hunt, and so of course you're going pretty aggressive, trying to make a play. You don't really. It's tough when you don't have a big time window, and you can't really kind of go through that process of taking it really, really slow and then just, doing some, location calls, seeing what's there, doing, of course, especially in that country where it's arid, glassing. I mean, that's 99% of hunting there, just glassing all day long and seeing what you can see. But I ended up, there was a couple wallows, and in that desert, of course, water is going to be huge for the elk. So I ended up doing a lot of walking, and then after a couple days of no luck, I'm like, well, I'm just going to go hang out by the water and see what comes in. And after, I think it was 3 straight days of not even seeing a cow, a bull goes about half a mile down from me with it was like 10 or 12 cows. So nice, he's right at, I didn't even tape him because I don't care, to be honest with you, but he's probably like a 300-inch 6-point, but he walks down, calling to him, didn't do anything. He was like, I could care less, but who did care was the cows. So I was able to call the cows in, and they came in to check out what was going on. And that bull was just interested enough in those cows to peel off and come down and give me a good shot. But it's always fun, man. It's every time I go out, you're doing the same thing, but the way you do it always, it's one of those things where it's always different and you're always learning something new, So it was a blast. How's your season been so far?
Yeah, my season's been great. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on a couple things you said, Jerry. You can tell your knowledge in the mountains and hunting elk and your love for it. So the exact same over here this year is a lot of years. The bulls will really start going. Like I plan my hunt to try to film this hunt the 11th. And then usually that just coming in after that pre-rut to that start of that rut is absolute money. So same dates as you, like around the 13th, it really starts kicking off. And it was a touch later this year. It was like 15th, 16th before those bulls really started bugling hard and rutting hard. So it was the same over here where I knew there was elk around. I could see the sign, but they just weren't calling. And then, about the 15th, 16th, it turned on like a switch, and they started bugling better. And then, I really like it is like such a chess match, is like you do, like you talked about the balance between aggressiveness and then not being reckless is like the balance that you're trying to create. And it's really tough. And sometimes, there was times this year where I had to back off a bull. It's 9 a.m. He's still bugling like crazy, but I know he's gotten the thick downfall timber. I know that he's getting ready to bed. I know that the winds are getting fickle because those morning thermals are really starting to switch around. And so I'd have to sit back like 200-300 yards, and it killed me. And this bull's just bugling his head off till 10:30 in the morning. But I just know if I charge in, now I'm being reckless. I don't have him in the right spot. It's not going to come together. At least it's a low percentage chance. And so trying to like walk that fine line, that balance of being aggressive, trying to create something, but also, trying not to blow them out of country and have to start over is like such a delicate balance. And like you said, it's not black or white. It's like this gray area of decisions that you have to make that directly affect your success or affect the outcome of your hunt, and it's so difficult. But then I loved how like you were charging country and then you thought like, this is drier country. Instead of playing into these elk's strength and trying to chase them all over the mountain, I'm going to play into their weakness. I know that elk need water every single day. I know because of the sign, and I'm just guessing or filling in the blanks here, but I know because of the sign they're coming into this water. And so if I sit this water, I'm going to play into their weakness and eventually have a bull come in. And so many times in those calling scenarios too, it is calling the cows in. So when you called those cows into the water, was it like a setup where you were using cow calls and a bugle, or just the cow calls, and could you hear those cows calling back and forth with you in the interaction as they were coming in?
No, and that's it. I'm generally, I don't like to go out and just start calling like crazy. Especially in country where you can see really well and you can get to some high ground and you can look around. I mean, if I can identify a bull and I can put an ambush on him, put a stalk and an ambush on him without calling, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that before I do any serious calling. But this bull had gone by, so I called, I challenged him, and he didn't care. But as he was walking away, and again, he's about a half mile kind of down into some thicker timber from where I was. Those cows were talking like crazy. So I'm like, well, maybe, clearly that water that I was sitting, they weren't going to hit that. They were out. So the country that I was hunting, you're kind of down in this valley, And when you're going after the elk where I was, you're either getting them coming to you, of course, in the afternoon, and then they're leaving at night. There's a lot of farm country in there and stuff like that. So there's, they're trying to hit food and everything. So you're kind of trying to ambush them more than anything else. So they were heading out, but those cows were talking enough where I was like, it was just one of those things where you just try it. There was enough talking amongst them to go, well, maybe I can get one to come in. And it just, of course, you know how it is. You call to them and it peeled one off. Well, it didn't even peel it off. It stopped them. You know how it is. It stops them. They're kind of looking around. They're looking back. They're going, maybe we'll go check that out. And of course, you don't want to go nuts. So you're kind of being light on the calling. But eventually you'll get one to turn around. That's all I was doing. I was praying. I'm like, man, if I can turn one around, there's a shot that the others might follow. And that's exactly what happened. One turned around. And then the other one stood there for 15, 20 minutes. And another one peeled off to follow the other cow. And then another one. And then, excuse me, Brian, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. That just means it's a real podcast when a phone rings.
Yeah, well, I just tried to shut the phone off. Phone is off for real this time.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry about that. So anyways, the cows start coming, and then that bull didn't show up for probably another half hour, and you could tell he was on the fence. He was just barely, again, coming into that mid-September where he's just interested enough to follow those cows around. He came in, and he wasn't even there to hang out. He was just trying to get him out of there, and get him back the direction he was going in the first place. But it's fun, man. I mean, it's people and everybody listening to this has probably experienced the same thing. But when you're up in that country and you're face to face with these animals, I don't think there's anything quite like it,
Oh man, 100%. Yeah, it's so many things that have to go right. I love like the sparse calling as well. Like sometimes that silence is more important than the actual calls that you make. It's like to keep that wonder of those elk, and to make it seem realistic, and also like reading the mannerisms or reading the motion of those elk. Like as you're looking and glassing those elk and you saw that first one stop and you're able to turn it around, like so many, like whether you're calling or whether you're stalking, being able to read the animals that you're hunting is such a big part of trying to get to where they're going. And then also, like you mentioned it, a huge part of hunting these elk is like the ambush style, or being able to get in front of where they're going. And I think guys forget that as they're calling, they work so much on their bugles and their cow calls and what they sound like. There's a lot of elk that sound like crap that don't even sound like elk. It's not the noises you make. It's like where you're making those noises from. You have to like read the elk and know that they're coming to water, going to bed, that they're coming to feed. And then you try to get in front of where they're moving, or like intersect them, or get to where they want to go. And when you get to where they want to go, they call in so much easier than trying to chase them and call from behind them and try to call this bull back in, And so like it's such a chess game back and forth.
It is.
And I think that's why we love it, is it's like the ultimate challenge, and it's so thrilling in this interaction with them. It's like when you're engaged with that, like I'm sure you got a bunch going on with Juniper Mountain and personal life and things, but when you're engaged in this predator-prey relationship, there's nothing else you can think about. Like you're 100% into it and trying to figure out these elk and trying to get in front of them. And it's one of the things that I love. Like we have so much trouble in this modern day and age of living in the present moment, and that elk seems to snap you right into that present moment. Like you have to be there. So yeah, it's man, it's fun hearing your story of hunting with them. Charles, have you got in on the elk game yet? You got to get out elk hunting.
Well, first off, I mean, you see, like with just the placement of this where I'm sitting, it's like, of course, Jarrod's gonna put me under this big massive elk in case it falls off this wall, right? But anyways, with that, so I've been talking with Jarrod and Philip, and I mean, I've been giving them a hard time. It's like, man, you gotta get me out there, right? So it's been 3 years in the making, where it's like we're gonna get out this year. It's like, again, it's like I'm gonna get there. So it'll be next year. I mean, it's like once we get all this kind of get all this dialed in here, and we can kind of step away for a little bit. But it's like right now with this kind of beginner kind of startup thing, and really get Juniper launched off, and just haven't had the time. But I want to. I've done a lot of, again, growing up in Southeast. For me, it's mostly fishing, offshore and inshore. But again, it's like, it's something I've been passionate about, which is so cool about the brand itself too, is how it translates. Again, it's like, even if I'm not a avid hunter, it's like, that's my dream. So even when I grab this bag of coffee or look at Juniper Mountain, it's like, man, it's like, I'm still from the Southeast, but this still translates, right? That brand, again, it's like across the country, still wanting to go out there and shoot one. But yeah, we'll get there. So.
I think one of the things that ties hunters, fishermen, outdoorsmen, sportsmen in general together is kind of what you touched on briefly before, Brian, and that is that there's this evolved part of our brains, and for almost all of human history, we have evolved to survive off of hunting, and harvesting and eating the animal. So I think that in today's world, it's so easy to be disconnected from that part of our brains because we're in the office, we're on our screens all day long, we're doing our thing. But I think the minute you get out there and you're putting a stalk on an animal, or you're fishing or doing whatever it is you're doing that provides food, that highly evolved part of our brain and our subconscious that we don't even think about just flicks on, and all of a sudden it's just you and that animal, and there's almost this peace about it. Like, you feel like this is exactly what I should be doing. Everything in the universe feels right in that moment, and I think it's because up until a couple hundred years ago, that's how we lived. Hunting was such an integral part of everybody's life. It didn't matter if you liked to hunt for sport or not. For all of human history, you hunted if you could because you had to. So that's this hardwired element that's in all of us. And when you go do it and you tune back in with this primal emotion and connection to the world and to the animals, I mean, it is a visceral, intense experience. And everybody listening to this that's hunted, fished, done any of it knows that exact emotion. And people that haven't experienced that, I hope that they do, because it is very few things like it.
But even listening to you guys, like, talk about it, like Brian brought up too, it's like the black and whites, even within the hunting, it's like you got these different tactics you can use to go and call in those elk or again, but it's like when you start talking that gray area, but really in general, that's where life begins. It's like, that's where the hunt begins. That's where the adventure begins. So even there, it's like Brian talking about, that's your gray area of how you're going to go and stalk this animal and harvest this animal. But again, that translates, across all barriers there, right? It's that gray area. That's where really the adventure in life begins, just in general,
Yeah.
Man, yep. Spot on, Jarrod. Yeah, I could have you host this podcast. You're so right, man. It is hardwired into our DNA. It's like the reason why we survived as human beings for 200,000 years is because we hunted and we praised our good hunters in the tribe that can bring back meat. And there's a reason, like, buck fever is real. It's like the excitement you get when you get close, and to have to pull all that together and pull yourself together and make a really good shot is way easier said than done. To, like, you arrowing that big 6-point bull this year, that is so tough to do, to pull yourself together to make a good shot in that excitement. And the way you talked about it is that 6-point barely wanted to hang around that water hole. It wasn't like he was drinking water, looking the other direction as you were able to draw your bow. Like, it happened, like you were amongst the chaos there and trying to capitalize on this moment, where you got him at the right location and got him broadside. But man, it's like any of us that can hunt have felt buck fever and have lost our mind. I think, like, the first few animals I shot at, I don't even think I looked at my pins. And you kind of have to go through this growing period where you have to keep your calm. And man, it's the same thing, Charles, with like fishing too. Like, it gets so exciting. Like, and I love to fish, and I, if I'm not in the mountains, I'm usually on the rivers or streams or lakes or the ocean for that matter, when I can make trips out there. But that same excitement hits you when you get a bite and you have to set the hook, or you're sight fishing to a fish and you have to make that really good cast. And then when you're playing a big fish, you have to do everything right, because if you make any mistakes, like, all of a sudden that opportunity is lost and you bust off that fish, and then you can go hours or days trying to tie into another one, So that excitement to procure meat, to be able to harvest something like that, man, it's real, and it is like hardwired in us, and something that you realize, like Jarrod said it best. It's like when you're out there and you're immersed in it, you feel like it's what you're meant to do. And also back to what Charles said, that gray area, that adventure, like, us as human beings are explorers by nature. Like we love to go to new places, and we love challenges like that. Like we're meant for that. And whether it's the challenge of trying to build a business from scratch, or the challenge of trying to harvest a 6-point bull, or to catch some giant offshore tarpon or something like that challenge and that adventure makes us feel alive. And it's like that, like Jarrod said it best. It's like we feel like that's what we're meant to be doing. Like that is actually enjoying life. And I think that's why we have to make sure that it's such a priority. We need to support our families. We need to work hard. We have this responsibility, and that's all part of like being a human being in this modern day and age. But we also have to get out for ourselves and do things we truly love to do. And that's like the fishing and like the hunting that Jarrod's doing, man. It's just awesome.
No, nope, 100%. You have to. You have to. It is so easy to get bogged down by life. At the end of the day, go home and a trip that you're going to try and plan and try and make happen. And we're all in the same boat. You're making a trip, dude. Plane flights are expensive. Taking the opportunity cost of just going somewhere to hunt or just go camping or whatever it is you want to do, fish, doesn't matter. It's hard to do. So it's so easy to go through life. And after you've been in the office for 12 hours a day, 5 days in a row, to go, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to go on that trip. I'm not going to, it just isn't worth it right now. But you have to. It's one of those things where I think once you're disconnected long enough, and really, it is this interesting thing, like you say, because we have to support our families. We have to be contributors in the modern world, and we have to use tech, and we have to be on our phones and computers, but we haven't evolved to do that yet. So it's not natural at all. We're not supposed to be doing this thing all day long. So you have to make sure you anchor yourself in the natural world by, if you don't hunt, at least get out, camp, get a campfire going, start it yourself, do something that is primal, that'll activate that part of your brain that's connected to this way of life that humans have lived for so long, and kind of remind yourself that there's a little bit more to life than just being in an office and trying to make money. You have to have that anchor. And to everybody, it's different. For me and yourself too, it's hunting. It's getting out there and being a participant in that process. It's huge. It's everything,
Man, it's so true. It's those phones are a necessary evil, right? And they're addictive for all of us, even us blue collar, hardworking guys that don't enjoy the tech. Like, it's necessary. Like, you can't be in the modern day and age and not have an email nowadays. Like, you can't, even in construction, like I'm using text messages and, and then too, it's like social media is a necessity as well. And you have to be careful that you don't spend your life scrolling, but you really have to, put like these, you really have to step away from those screens and engage into that natural world, like you're saying, is so important. But even just in our everyday life, like being able to disconnect from those phones. Like I get home in the evening and it's, my clients know and people know that they're not going to be able to reach me in my evening. I'm going to go put my phone on my bedside table and I'm going to go engage with my family. I'm going to go laugh with them. I'm going to share dinner together. I'm not going to bring my problems from work home. And I think it's like self-discipline. Like those phones are so addictive for all of us, even us outdoor guys, even us the guys that don't like them. Like they're necessary, but they're also really addictive. And we have to like have this self-discipline to be able to get something out of it, to be able to use them to grow our businesses, to be able to keep in touch with friends and family. But then we also have to be disciplined enough to get away from those dang things.
No, that's it, man. Like, Jocko Willink says, discipline is freedom. And that's everything. You have to. And that's why, the most fun I've ever had doing just about anything is when it sucked the most. Doing and subjecting yourself to those things deliberately. I think that in this life you're going to suffer. So you have a choice. You can subject yourself to suffering at your own hands, or you can let the world do it for you. And you're always better off doing it on your own terms. So do your cold showers, cold baths, whatever it is. Go on your runs, hit the gym, whatever it takes to make life suck a little bit in that moment to be better later on.
Yeah, you're speaking my language, man. It's like that's my family's joke is that I just love to suffer, whatever it is, even if it's something I don't want to go do, like shopping. My wife's like, "Hey, you're gonna suffer shopping." It's like, okay, I'm in. It's
Ooh,
like, okay, I'll go with you. It's but yeah,
oh,
it's so funny.
I,
It's like the
I,
more you put into something, the more it means to you, and it's like for fun, it's type 2 fun, and it's like not fun all the time when you're grinding and hiking up a mountain and you've been going for days on end. But when you get home, it's like the only thing you can think about. And when you accomplish your goal and you put so much into it, whether it's the preparation or the hunt itself, like that suffering makes for the most memorable moments of your life, And so that
yep,
suffering, it is, you have to almost seek it out. And through those
yeah,
challenges, it toughens you as a person. And like you're going to get hardships in life, whether you create them or whether you avoid them. Like nobody's life is full of just rainbows and unicorns. Like everybody has to go through hardships in life, but when you do these hard things, you're able to harden yourself and harden your mind to be able to prepare yourself for these hard moments, so you can be there for your family when you hit these hard moments that you're definitely going to hit, no matter if you're trying to avoid them or seek them out. But yeah, I'd love to suffer, man. Jarrod, you're speaking my language. I seek it
cool.
out day in and day out, and I think it grows us into better people.
It does, and you nailed it. It's all for a reason. You do hard things deliberately to yourself. When life throws things at you that are actually tough and difficult and hard to deal with, and like you said, nobody's immune to that. It doesn't matter where you're at in life, who you are. You're going to get stuff thrown at you that's really hard to deal with. That's just life itself. And in that, if you have mental fortification built up and you're tough before that because of subjecting yourself to stuff that you don't want to do, it makes it easier. It makes it so that you won't get ruined by some, everybody's going to have some catastrophic things in their life happen to them. There's no way around it, unfortunately. So it's good to acknowledge that, recognize that. First of all, a lot of people will sit there and go, well, it's not good, nothing's going to happen to me. It's that bad. Something is, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but it's going to happen to everybody. So when those things happen, you better be prepared. And the tougher you can make yourself, the better. And I'm not a tough guy by any means, but you should at least be out there trying to, that way when life does what life does, you can deal with it and be there for the people that support on you, that you support, excuse me, or rely on you. All of us have people that rely on us. So it's extremely important. It's extremely important to make sure that we are the best that we can be, to be there for the people that need us.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, those layers of mental toughness that you add prepare you, and you're gonna face hardships nearly every day or every week. There's gonna be challenges, but the more mental resolve you have, the more toughness you have built in, you're just able to handle these things. It's like when I get a problem, I'm not going to sit and dwell on that problem and think of all the worst case scenarios. Like when I get a problem, I'm going to come up with some scenarios and a solution, and then I'm going to move forward to correct that. But I just know day in, day out, whether I'm out hunting elk or whether, I'm going to run into challenges. The elk aren't going to be where I thought they were. I'm going to run into more hunting pressure. Like the ability to pivot and adapt and evolve, like, is so important. And same thing building houses. It's like nothing but problem solving. And really, it's, we started the conversation by how you do one thing is how you do everything. And when you carry yourself that way, it's like, man, those challenges and those problems, they're easier to figure out. It's not such a big deal. You're able to work your way through them. But if you don't have that mental resolve, or you don't build that in through your passions or through your recreating or through your work, you can almost feel lost or get overwhelmed and let that anxiety overtake you, And so
Yeah.
like building that in is so important, man. It's just like I think, seek it out, but it's a muscle that you have to flex as well. It's like you can't build that mental toughness and then just rely upon it like for all the time. It's like a muscle that you have to flex day in, day out, and seek those hardships out.
Yeah.
For sure, man. I mean, it's a simple thing. Like even just the thought process of like distractions versus challenging, right? We can all find distractions in our life too. Again, to where we don't have to go and face those exact things that you were discussing, right? Whether it's that those hardships, those tough things. But like I said, we can all find those distractions in life that are taking us away from that. But like if you can find that other gear, that other thought process of, hey, let's not distract from these hardships, but actually let's go ahead and challenge those things, right? So accept that challenge, right? And then, like you said, flex that muscle, and it'll just be strengthened. So whether that's a physical, but really more than even the physical side, it's more the mental side. That kind of gets it to where you can flex that muscle and be ready for those different adventures, those different things that are being faced in life. So yeah, I mean, and again, that translates across all borders. I mean, that is something that we can all learn from, and so yeah, exactly right.
And like you said, Brian, apply to hunting too, dude. I've blown more stalks than I'd like to admit, and I've made more bad decisions than I'd like to admit hunting, and just done things that you shouldn't do, right? Whether it's be too aggressive or not aggressive enough, or just made a mistake, But like life itself, when you're on that hunt and you're doing that thing, there is zero time to sit there and feel bad for yourself. You need to address what you did wrong so you can learn from it and make a correction, but you have to just get right back out there and go again, and that's I think one of the things that we love about hunting so much, all of us that do it and participate in it, is exactly that. It's like a training ground for life. You're making decisions, and it's not always clear what the right one is. The more experience you get, the better you get at making those decisions, right? But it's tough, man. But all you can do is just keep on going.
Oh, Jerry, you bring up such a good point. It's like the only reason I'm any good at bow hunting is I've made every mistake out there. I've failed every different way you can fail, and it's human nature. We're gonna make mistakes, and we're gonna have to self-correct. But I think that's such a huge part of growth, and I think it's something that that guys kind of miss, that they want that success right off the bat. They want to make all the right moves. They want to make that perfect stalk or that perfect calling sequence. But the truth is like in life, you're going to make these mistakes, and you're going to have to pick yourself back up and get back after it. And you don't want to have this arrogance about you where you put blame on somebody else. Like, you have to accept responsibility for what went wrong. So, I got winded. It's like, well, maybe I shouldn't have gone in when the thermals were switching around. Maybe next time I play that I play that different. I'm going to wait till the evening, till the shade hits that mountain, and I've got that downhill thermal where it's consistent, but being able to take responsibility. And it goes, like, it's so much of this, like, we're talking about hunting, but it carries over to every other facet of our life. And we make these mistakes, we self-correct, and mistakes are part of growth. And to get to where we want to go, we're going to make a bunch of them along the way, but that's the only reason I'm any good at bow hunting is I've messed up the wind. I've messed up noise. I've moved in too quick. I've been too aggressive. I've been too patient. I've lost focus right at the last minute as your brain screams at you to hurry up and make it over the side of that hill, and you make it over the side and a cow busts you, or, like, I've made all these mistakes, but being able to assess those, realize what went wrong, accept responsibility, like, I'm able to get better through this evolution of it to where now when I see a good bull, like, I trust my instincts and I make these moves. And a lot of times I'm right, and I don't get it right every time. It's like we are matching wits, versus these animals that do have such keen instincts. So they are going to win a lot of the times, no matter if we make all the right moves or not. But yeah, this like self-assessment, like not beating yourself up over a mistake. It's like, Tom Brady, when he steps in to make a pass, he's not thinking about the interceptions he's thrown, he's thinking about that he's going to make this pass and make it right, so it's like not focusing on the negative, but definitely being able to assess them and make improvements from it. But yeah, man, we all fail. Like, that is part of human nature.
Yep. And I think you nailed it, Brian, with the self-awareness component to that. If you're not, and this is a struggle for a lot of us, at least me, I can speak for myself on this one. It's tough to mess something up, to call a poor sequence and blow a bull out, or be too aggressive or whatever. And then the minute that happens, you're trying to blame everything but yourself. Well, maybe the wind changed, or this or that, or no, it's always your fault. And you have to be able to sit there and look at yourself and go, I messed up. It's as simple as that. I messed up. What did I do wrong? And I'm going to try my best not to do that one thing again. And every time you make a mistake that way, you can eventually grow into a person that can make at least halfway decent decisions as you keep stacking those mistakes up, and then with those mistakes, corrections to those mistakes, and eventually you'll connect, whether it's a big bowl or something you're doing in your personal life. It all translates. It's all the exact same process.
Yeah, or a successful business or whatever it is, right? Like it all is all just evolution and human growth, man. That's so fascinating. I just love talking about that stuff because we are so similar, even though, this is the first time we've met and the first time we've chatted. We have so many similarities in the way we think about things and the way we approach things. And like you say, it's how you do one thing is how you do everything. So unfortunately, how you elk hunt is like how you live your life with your business life, how you live your life with your family. And so it's important to like create those good traits, and that good way that you approach mistakes or the good way that you accept responsibility. Like that all goes further for human growth and successful endeavors.
Yeah. Nope, that's spot on. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, man, you guys are killing it. Absolute best coffee. Like the roasts speak for themselves. A great company, and I just I couldn't be more proud to be partnered with you guys and have you guys on the podcast. So it's such a great conversation. I got to have you guys back on again. We got to touch bases here in a bit. You guys got any more hunts that are coming up for the late season?
Yeah, we actually go on a really quick down and dirty muzzleloader hunt, whitetail hunt here in Florida tomorrow, and we're going out with some percussion side locks for fun there, and then we're doing a whitetail hunt in northern Alberta coming up November. So we got a couple good hunts left this year, so we're excited.
Right, a percussion side lock, is that like the old flint and the powder in the pan and stuff?
So it's one step past that. It's mid 1800s they got popular, so it's the same process. So it's like I got a Hawkins rifle, he's got a trade rifle, so they look like flintlocks mostly. They're of course muzzleloaders, old school, but instead of having a flash pan and powder, you have a percussion cap, you have a nipple, and you put a percussion cap on that nipple, and that's a firing mechanism there instead of a flintlock. So
yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, man, they're
Open
still
sights,
so difficult, right? Like open sights, they're not as accurate as rifles.
not even
Like
close.
the flash in the pan, man, the delay on the shot is crazy on those things. But yeah, muzzleloader is like a different skill set where you still have to get close and then use that and be accurate with them. Man, that's awesome. That's going to be a fun hunt.
It'll be fun. Yeah, it'll be fun. So it'll be fun going through I've never hunted deer here before, and the environment is so foreign to me. So it's like I'm like a sponge over here as far as learning goes. I got no insight into how to hunt down here, and it's just a totally different experience.
Yeah, we'll give it a rip.
Yeah, we sure will. But hey, I just wanted to say too, real quick, we're humble to be here, Brian. We appreciate you sitting down with a couple of nobodies. It means a lot to us, and it was a lot of fun talking today.
Oh man, it's fun. It's an hour just flew by. Yeah, I think I could talk to you guys for 8 hours. Yeah, we got to get you back on the podcast. But yeah, good luck on your hunting. And then that Canada hunt, man, they build them big up there, right? Big bodies, like big heavy antlers. Like, man, if you're gonna go hunt whitetails, that is the place.
That's what we've heard. So we're gonna go give her a rip, man. We're super excited. It's supposed to be a pretty good area. Guys are taking a lot of 170, 180 inch whitetail out of there. So we're pumped. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh,
how about yourself?
I can't imagine seeing a whitetail like that. That's such a big one. Yeah, we man, it's just been a great season. Just a bunch of great adventures. I just got back with my daughter. We just shared an adventure hunt for muleys, and then she missed a really good buck at 200 yards lay down rest, which she's so clutch. She's 15, and I think she's already killed 4 or 5 bucks. And so she's usually clutch in those moments, and we took her time, but it's everybody misses, and even though that rifle's on, we've been practicing with it. It was a lay down rest. Somehow she just missed that buck. But to be able to pick herself back up and then to hunt hard for, a few days, like covering a bunch of miles. And then we finally got a chance at another buck. She had to wait 2.5 hours for him to stand and then just made a perfect shot on him. And then we packed him out in the dark with the headlamp. So it's a real like adventure with Dad, which is so fun. So that was a
awesome.
huge highlight for me. And so yeah,
That's
after that, I've got a good muley rut hunt that'll take place in the Badlands. So I'll actually leave this
perfect.
next weekend. I've got a week to spend out there. They're just coming into the rut, which is so fun to hunt the rut with a bow and arrow. So really looking forward to that. I've got another late season hunt that's takes place in Idaho, where it's big mountains, deep snow, bitter cold. That'll take place like late November, early December, which that cold takes like a different toughness, you know, to be out in those elements. And so, yeah, we'll try to outsmart a buck or two on those couple hunts, and that should pretty well wrap up my season. May get a wild hare and head down to the deserts of Arizona in January down there if I can get a tag. And the deserts are so fun because it can be 20 below here in Montana and it's 70 degrees down there. And to be able to camp and live in the desert and share that hunt with a good buddy, like, man, you could probably catch me down there in January taking place on a hunt. So I got some great ones coming up, man. I'm super stoked. It's already been a great season. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Cool. Awesome, man.
Right on. Thanks so much, you guys, for taking the time, being on the podcast. You guys have a great company, and I'm a huge fan of it. And yeah, just really fun to connect with you guys and chat. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian. We'll talk soon. Thanks.